Hello, good evening. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to take your questions. I've had a busy day, so I'm running a little late today, but I still wanted to take the time to come on and give you a great topic as well as to take your questions. So go ahead, put your questions in the comments while I'm here, and I will answer your questions. Also want to let you know that if once I leave and go on to Instagram, I'm going to be on Instagram after this, right after this. So we don't have to end the conversation here, or you don't have to wait till Monday. You can join me over on Instagram, The Immigration Attorney, to continue our conversation. But today, I wanted to talk to you about applying for the green card after you have after you overstayed your visa. Now, or even if you cross the border without permission. Now, there are different options that depend on what your circumstances are. You'll hear me talk a lot about VAWA. You'll hear me talk about the T visa and the U visa in cases you've been the victim of trafficking or a crime. But today I'm going to talk about a situation where you don't fall into any of those. You do have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent, but everything is great with the parent. Everything is great with your spouse. It's just that you overstayed and you don't qualify to stay here and apply for the green card. Now, if you have seen me before, you've heard me say that usually after you've overstayed, you either have to be the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen. That means you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen, the parent of a U.S. citizen, or the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen under 21 and unmarried, or you have to fall under the humanitarian categories like VAWA, like the T visa, U visa for victims of crime and trafficking, or asylum, in order to eventually still adjust status in the United States, even with a history of overstaying. If none of those apply, you're 21 or over and you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent, you overstayed or you cross the border without permission, because that's another thing. If you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen, for example, but you cross the border without permission, you will not qualify for adjustment of status. That's where I'm going to talk about this alternative. This is applying for the I-601A unlawful presence waiver. So the provisional unlawful presence waiver. This will allow you to get forgiveness for the overstay. And the reason it's so important for you to get the forgiveness for the overstay is because once you're stuck here, right, you don't qualify to adjust status, but you can't leave. The reason you can't leave is because once you've fallen out of status and you've overstayed over 180 days, once you set foot outside of the country, you're going to be banned for at least 3 years. If you overstay over a year, that turns into a 10-year bar. So you don't want to be leaving because you can't come back, especially if you have relatives here, you have most of your family ties here. You definitely want to stop and figure out how is it that you can fix the situation. And this waiver is the way that you can do that. This waiver will allow you to apply for forgiveness for the overstay, which includes maybe sneaking across the border, as long as it didn't involve misrepresentation or fraud. So for example, if you came in, but you came in with a false passport, or you came in with a false, you gave a false name coming into the country or something to gain entry, you told a lie or you omitted material information, then that's going to be an additional inadmissibility, and your case is officially complex. You want to make sure you get further legal advice about to fix it. But if you snuck across the border, you were never inspected, or you went ahead and you overstayed your visa, but you don't qualify for adjustment of status, you could apply for forgiveness for the overstay or crossing the border without permission. And if granted, all being well is granted, then you would be able to gain forgiveness to leave to attend the interview in your home country. So at the embassy. And at the embassy, when you go there, they're not going to hold the unlawful presence against you. And all being well, they don't find any other issues that disqualify you, like any other criminal issues, or as I said before, the misrepresentation. They will issue the immigrant visa for you to come back and become a permanent resident. So for some people, this is the only option, right? Because if you're here, you can't stay to apply for the green card and you can't leave, you're stuck. And this is the way that you're going to be unstuck, is as long as you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship, and that's what we show in the waiver, you could qualify for this waiver to get you unstuck and get you to attend the interview at the embassy to go ahead and get the immigrant visa, which leads to the permanent residence. So Laura, I hope you caught on. I think I basically summarized everything in the last two sentences. But this is about the I-601A unlawful presence waiver. And essentially it is the way that you can become unstuck. So if you're here, you can't apply to stay, you can't stay and apply for the green card, but you can't leave because you've already overstayed and you've already accrued unlawful presence. That means you've overstayed over 180 days. If you leave, you'll be banned. Then this waiver, if approved, will get you what you need to do, get you where you need to be to get the green card. Now, what are the requirements of this waiver? Once we determine you qualify, the first thing I check is, do you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse or parent? If that's the case, the next is will this spouse or parent experience extreme hardship if you don't get the green card? Now, I like to explain it like this. If your parent or your spouse or both will face devastating consequences, or they'll face a series of hardship that together amounts to extreme hardship because it's so much, will your spouse or parent experience all of those consequences as a result of you not getting the green card? For example, if you are here with your sickly parent, your parent has health issues and you're the only one they depend on, that is an example of a hardship that could possibly get you approved for this waiver. If you're here with your permanent resident spouse, if you've crossed the border without permission and you're here with your U.S. citizen spouse, then will that spouse have to be left with the children? Will you have to go ahead and will your spouse have to move back to your country, and is that feasible? Will your spouse lose employment opportunities? Will your spouse be targeted in your country? Do you have strong ties? Do both of you have strong ties in your country? If you don't, then how are you going to get settled there? That could result in an extreme hardship. So these are examples. While it really depends on your circumstances. Similar situations can get you approved for this waiver. That's where, though, if you want to determine whether you qualify for this, you should schedule your appointment to talk to me. Let's confirm you qualify and get started right away. This application is filed with the I-601 waiver. And it also is required at the point after your I-130 petition. That's a petition that your employer or your spouse or your parent filed for you to get the green card. So after that's approved, it's at that point that the I-601A waivers, because it's filed on the I-601 form, can be filed. All right. So that's going to be it for me. If you would like to figure out if this is for you, go ahead and click on the link in the profile, click on the link in the About page on YouTube, and it will lead you to the website where you'll see the phone number, the contact form, and the chat. All three lead to the scheduling coordinators. All right. So just a quick question. After divorce, how long before you can be remarried? So it's gonna Monifa, if this is related to immigration, it's gonna depend, right? If, for example, if you're divorced but you're applying for VAWA, remarrying before VAWA is approved can disqualify you altogether from VAWA. Your VAWA will be denied. So it's going to, and another thing is it may affect your situation in that if you do get remarried to someone else, were you a permanent resident who got married to a U.S. citizen, and did you get your permanent residence? If you divorce them right after getting the green card and then you remarry someone else and then sponsor them, that could be a problem. That could create a lot of issues in your process. And then also if you divorce one spouse, you file the papers, it got denied, then you go to another spouse, you get married and file papers, that could definitely raise questions as well. So whether it's advisable to get remarried is going to depend on your circumstances. So are you saying if someone is here and overstayed and have a child under 18, not spouse or parent? No. So I'm not saying that. I definitely didn't say that, right? If you have a child who's under 18, they don't qualify. That's why you'll hear me say spouse or parent. Only spouse or parent will qualify you for this waiver. Unfortunately, the child, the U.S. citizen child, does not qualify for this waiver. Go figure, right? You think to keep families together, the child should also be a qualifying relative, but they're not. So this waiver only applies if you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship. Hi, when will the lottery start? It depends on which lottery you're talking about. If you're talking about the diversity lottery, it's around October. How long does it take now when a U.S. citizen files for her son over 21 and unmarried? So 6 to 7 years right now. Shauna, thanks for the follow. Can you travel within the U.S. while waiting on your B2 visa to be changed to the F1? Traveling within the U.S. is not necessarily going to be a problem. I don't know what your situation, and I'm not advising you particularly, but generally, if you're here legally, you're on your B2, you can travel within the U.S. Have a green card. Can I give him a green card too? No. So green card holders can't file for their siblings, unfortunately. So great questions. I'm going to be here for just a little bit more. So go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Now, if you don't get to ask your question here, guess what? I'm going on to Instagram right now, where I'll continue the live there. I'm the immigration attorney on Instagram. You can hop on there, join me as soon as I come off. You join me there, and you can continue to ask your questions. How long does a waiver take to get approved after they ask you to send evidence? So it's gonna depend. I wouldn't have that information. It just depends on their processing, the service center, what waiver, what evidence, and so forth. All right, so I'm going to head on over to Instagram. I'm the immigration attorney on Instagram. Thanks for the love. Thanks for your very relevant questions. I'll be over on Instagram, the immigration attorney, or Facebook at ST Law Office to continue this conversation. So go ahead and join me there and let's talk more. Have a great weekend. I will be back. So it's the I-212. It's gonna depend. So it still depends on the service center and what exactly is your case about. What are they asking for? Usually they will, if that's all, they may respond with a decision after a few months, and right now RFEs could go even a year without hearing anything. So it's gonna, it really depends. It's crazy right now with the processing times. And so I wouldn't have that information, especially since I'm not your attorney and I haven't reviewed your case. Now, remember, the information I'm giving you is not personal legal advice. It's general information. So if you want personal legal advice and representation, make sure you go to the link in the profile, schedule your appointment. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. I will see you on Instagram in a minute. Remember, if I don't see you on Instagram, I am on here Mondays through Fridays at around, I came on late today because today I went over with meetings. But I am on 4 p.m. Eastern time on TikTok and YouTube, Mondays through Fridays. So you can join me there as soon as Monday, right? And in the meantime, have a great weekend, or I'll see you in a minute. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thanks for the love, by the way.